All right, Jakey, we're back after another massive round.
We are.
What's making news? Who's the centre of attention?
Well, for me...
Is there a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot, but for me's Buzz Rothfield going at the Broncos, just because it's a typical journo thing, where if you zoom out and look at what is actually trying to be done there for the group, the narrative's tried to be spun, obviously, because they lost, but I obviously have a different point of view, and we can discuss that, but for me, that's the biggest one.
So, you obviously had Brave, Gordy, Buzz. Who's the other guy? Who was the other guy at the time?
Is it Bull? No, who was it last night? I'm not sure.
Got the glasses. What's his name?
Oh, Reedy.
Reedy, Reedy.
He loves it.
Yeah, Reedy's a big... is he a Broncos supporter? He loves Queensland.
I think he has some strong connections with certain clubs and certain coaches. Yeah, he's been a journo for a while.
And Gordy doesn't like New South Wales coaches?
To an extent, I think.
I don't think he
especially
likes
around
New
this
South
time of the year.
I actually met him. He's a nice guy. So, yeah, that was probably the centre of attention, with the boat ride and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if they win, the boat ride's applauded, right?
I think so. But even like...
What's wrong with it, bud? Like, from your perspective, you're a player. What's wrong with a coach taking the players out on the harbour and just getting them away a bit?
And it's not like...
Is there anything wrong with it?
Well, it's not that I can't see how other people view it. But if I'm in a team environment, we've just come off a couple of losses, got touched up the week before at home, and we're in a bit of a form slump. I can see the coach trying to, let's get everyone down there, let's bunker down, let's sort of clear the air, let's go and have dinner on a boat. What happened on the boat, I don't know. I'm assuming it was just a get together, get away from it all. Yeah. But I can see where Buzz Rothfield's coming from, but it's not the reason why they lost.
What was interesting was Reedy said they haven't won since 2006. It's 19 years. Mm-hmm. They got rid of Wayne Bennett.
Yep.
Before that, it was... who was the coach before that? Before Wayne Bennett. He coached at Penrith and Saints. What was his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. What's his name? It'll come to me.
It'll come to you.
Yeah.
So then you had Kevin Walters. Griffin, right? So... they've had a lot of coaches in 19 years. Apparently, management's changed as well. So you had the management change as well.
Yeah.
Managers change. What then doesn't change then? Like, what could still be in those four walls? Is it, is it the new management? Because you can change management and bring new management in that don't understand, where the club needs to go.
I think
because surely, like those out of all those four coaches, you can't just keep blaming the coaches, right?
No. Well, in Brisbane, right, you're the talk of the media every day.
Yeah.
Right. You lose, it's a week of getting peppered. You win, everything's all well and sweet because Brisbane is the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And they're the biggest sporting club in the NRL, tossing up, in Australia across all codes, and they've got the star-studded team. They've got the young crop coming through who have all the potential in the world. They've got Adam Reynolds there. Your Payne Haas's they have a team to win the comp. So it's when you see things like that, but then you see the effort that was put on in the second half in the game against the Rabbitohs. To be honest, I actually didn't think Brisbane played too bad for the large portion of the game. I just feel 14-0 up at half-time. The second half, they were in and out of it. Latrell Mitchell stopped 2 tries. He scored the smart-ass one at the end, kicked the drop goal, kept him in the game, and it swung for him. So, it's difficult.
Even the Payne Haas tackle, man. He's not easy to tackle.
It's big plays.
Yeah.
And that is psychological because when you start seeing him doing that, they're like, "Oh fuck, he's on." What are we going to do?
To be honest, I didn't look at it that way. You look at what the effort of Latrell Mitchell wasn't normal. He's been in the media all week saying he's superhuman.
Yeah.
And Brisbane just lose to a superhuman who lifted the whole team.
Yep.
And they said only Latrell Mitchell can do this. So, people are harping on what's going on between the four walls at the Broncos. But they just played against a superhuman and correct me if I'm wrong, they go, only Latrell can do that.
Yep.
in the game right now? Is there anyone else that can do, like, you know, obviously apart from Cleary, but not probably the moments that Latrell can do in the game, right?
The only thing the only other play outside of Latrell and Cleary is the two players down in Melbourne, your Munsters and Hughes, right?
Yep.
Because individually they're both great players
Yeah.
as well, and they're just fortunate to do together. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone kick a drop goal
In the
from
wet
50
foot.
out and pissing down rain.
They reckon that's
and in the
equivalent
moment
to
of the
55,
game,
60.
Yeah, and he's like slotted it.
Yeah.
The best thing was he kicked it. It was still in the air going over. He had started turning and walking back the other way. Like, that's just confidence, oozing confidence.
And especially when you think you could have been up because of those 2 tackles he made. It must get frustrating for the team when you're busting your guts, like you're doing everything you can win, and then this guy comes up with those plays.
That's why he's get paid the big bucks. That's
Yeah.
why he puts bums in seats. Like, everyone's going to be talking about that for the rest of the year.
Now, let me ask you a question. Does that make his game this week, like, he's not the type of guy that gets pressured. He just plays the game, right? I mean, there must be some sort of pressure, but he's now vying for a New South Wales position, so he's got a lot to prove still, because he was out of the conversation last week.
I think
He was.
Yeah, I think Wayne said to him during the week, look, you know, what are you going to do this week? Like, you know, we need you. And, you know, if you watch closely, Latrell's, it was either the first hit up off a kick chase when he got the ball. He got the ball and he ran straight into fucking Payne Haas as hard as he could.
And
I was seeing that and I thought, he set the tone here. That was in the first minute or second minute of the game. So it wasn't like he just sprung to life. The intention was set with his first carry.
So this goes back to Madge, right? And he's getting a lot of flack. But, mate, South, especially him, done a monstrous effort by lifting the team with the plays. And now Madge is copping it for, you know, what seemed like, what the hell? Latrell's back in you know, the conversation to be in the New South Wales side.
Yeah, which is going to be an interesting side because we'll cross over to the Melbourne Storm and the Tigers game. 64-0 and Pappenhausen scored 3 tries in 17 minutes. And one of them was fucking... The effort he put in, he ran 120 metres almost before he even got the ball, then had to do a 25-metre kick chase, double kick chase, got the ball down in between 2 people, done a fucking spin and pirouette, and like...
You know what's unbelievable about Pappenhausen?
Freaky.
That injury that he had.
He had a couple.
But like pretty bad, man.
Fuck, dude.
Like, and
legs.
back to back to back. And then he comes back with that speed. How much work goes behind the scenes to work like that when probably Craig Bellamy didn't have the confidence that he was going to come back like that?
Well, they flew him to America, you know, and people would look at that like, oh, it's a hot mate. The way he's playing, he's got so much confidence out of the effort, obviously, he's put in, not only for himself but the team and that whole organisation, getting him to where he is dominating games for them, you know.
Yeah.
And as we're talking about Origin with Latrell, they're tossing up Pappenhausen, you know, as possibly a 14, you know. He's not the big frame that you need at the back or inside in the back line, but he's definitely could come on as a 14 role and cause a bit of havoc with his speed and his deception.
Yeah.
100%.
What does that do to the Tigers 64-0? What does that do? Like,
well, it probably gives them, I wouldn't say a reality check, because I think they've been very good, you know, the whole season, and this could go one or two ways. They'll dwell on it, and, you know, maybe the confidence dips a little bit, or you just throw that fuel onto the fire and go, I don't want ever that to happen again. Like, that's almost a point a minute in first grade.
Luai's dad coming out and saying,
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of that?
Oh, it's probably not the smartest move.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I get it. Maybe it's a little bit of marketing. Who knows? You know, like, things happen in the rugby league world to bring that attention. Anything is possible. But I think just after a 64-0 loss...
How does Benji feel about that, though?
I think he'd be upset. I think the club would be upset, you know, like, it's a tough one. Obviously, they'll do their best to dance around it being brought attention. It's going to be in the media until probably to the weekend.
Mm.
But it's not probably the smartest move to do definitely after a loss like
Yeah.
that. But worse things have been done, to be honest.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I sort of had a look last night when we're going to talk about today, the ladder. It's so
Congested.
it's condensed
Yeah.
all the way from 7 all the way down to 15. Then you got Penrith. They got the bye this week. They're on 7 points, so they're on 9 next week. But you got the Broncos that were still in the 8, right? The Sea Eagles, Roosters, Tigers, and Rabbits all on 10 competition points. Then you got the Dolphins, Dragons, Knights, and Titans all on 8. You know, and they're all going to be playing each other over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. So you'll start
Especially state of origin.
you'll
time.
start to see the teams maybe drop off and drift up. I don't think anyone's sort of catching the Bulldogs and the Storms and the and the other
Raiders.
teams at the top. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
How do you see in the next, like say, well, state of origin takes about 4 or 5 weeks, right?
Yes, I think something.
Who do you think's going to come out of that, out of the teams that you just mentioned there?
Mate, in a good way or a bad way?
Well, name 2 teams going up and 2 going down.
I think, depending on how many of the Panthers go in, it could dictate them a little bit unless they're...
They don't have the depth they had.
Exactly right. So unless their middle range players really step up and they can win those games through Origin period, because I'm going to take a wild guess and say Cleary, Yo, or possibly Edwards, possibly. Like they're their four go-tos.
I think they're definitely in.
You know what I mean? So that could drain them. But I also know Penrith are probably one of the most professional clubs, and they'll do their very best to make sure those guys are ready physically and mentally for the back end of the year, because they're behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
So that's someone that I could probably see may struggle, or it can shift the other way. The other teams, obviously the Broncos, they'll have a fucking host of people in Origin.
Yeah.
And Madge will have to do some dancing, because, I think the Broncos do have depth. It's just if those players can be revving the whole time, and when the other players come back, they're there emotionally and physically also. What do you think about this, right? These 3 games in particular. The Knights are up 20-6 at halftime, lose 24-20. Broncos up 14-0 at halftime, lose 22-14. And the Raiders up 20-0 at halftime and lose 32-20. And Steve Crichton played possibly the best 7 minutes of rugby league I've ever seen an individual player in my life.
Yeah.
He was holding the ball like a fucking apple.
Oh, I know.
Did you see that?
I thought he was Michael Jordan.
Yeah. It was Ali Lauatiti again.
Yeah,
Moving, running, fending, everything done in the one motion. That's very impressive skill. When I look at 20-6 especially, I just want to go, we'll start off with the Knights. At home, in front of their crowd. Conditions suit them. It's a bit wet. They've got the crowd behind them. They're up 20-6, so they've done the hard work the first 40 minutes. Then they just fell off a cliff.
Yep.
I watched the game because I want to see Newcastle do well. I feel when Newcastle do well, the competition's humming a little bit.
I like Newcastle for that as well. But when I look at that game, I go, and to be honest, the Titans were in the media a lot for that whole week with, Fafita not wanting to possibly be there, right? So there was everything against them. There's Hazard under pressure, score line against them, the Fafita incident. There's no way in hell they should have come back. With all of that in the media, we've seen the teams in the media where they've been there 1-2 weeks, they've all not done well. So how they came back is bewildering to me. But more importantly, you said before off camera, Newcastle were way off the pace, right?
The second half.
Definitely. Second half. It's almost a coach killer. It's not like the Titans had a literal moment.
No.
Right? And they ended up winning in Newcastle. So, Jake, I haven't seen a team play 80 minutes. Now I created this podcast studio because I loved creating these types of clips, videos, and helping people. But more importantly, we're in the most iconic place in the world. The beach is just down the road, 100 metres across the road. And it's over 4 levels. It has absolutely everything. From HIIT, boxing, spin, yoga, Pilates, spin, and more. Did I say spin twice? And soon to be reformer Pilates. That's how much I love this place. I repeat myself all the time. I can't wait to see her at Tighter Fitness. Get down here, over and out. I really haven't. Like, look, if you look at the weekend, you know, Manly played probably for about 40. I reckon Manly played for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
There's probably 20 minutes in the second half they played.
Yep.
Right? And that was when it was 14 all. You know, Cronulla played longer, but I still thought Cronulla made a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
They were letting Manly back in, but Manly didn't want to go back in.
Yep.
It seems to me, and I was having this good conversation with a St. George legend the other day on the street there, Brian Johnston.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about, we sat down at Dave's and we were talking about the game. You know, and he's been CEO of St. George, been in rugby league forever.
Yep.
And it was interesting what he was saying to me, because we're talking about these score lines, topsy-turvy halves.
Yeah.
And he said you can measure everything when it comes to fitness, everything when it comes to effort. Like, you can measure all those metrics, right? Mm-hmm. But he goes, you can't measure the heart, like, and the mind. The mind, like, where it goes and where it drifts and why you can't get that sorted for the games. And we kind of came to the conclusion, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they don't work hard enough on this.
The mind.
Yeah.
I do agree with that to a certain extent, because...
Like, we work on people physically, but we don't get this...
The biggest thing is, right, is when you're carrying injuries, niggles, like even having your finger jammed is a pain in the ass, and it's just your finger. But try catching a ball, pushing yourself off the ground, grabbing onto a jersey, like... Those things do affect your mindset, because you're, instinctively our subconscious mind's trying to protect our bodies. You know what I mean? So this is why people admire tough players so much. Is I've watched players needle 2-3 joints before a game for long periods of the season. Watch players paddings on rib cartilage. Now, rib cartilage is a bastard of an injury. I wanted to say a different word then, but those injuries, they don't go away. And when you wake up in the morning, it's like someone's jammed a knife and it's just there. Everything hurts. Breathing hurts, right? So think about, if breathing hurts, how is it when you take a hit up into 3 people?
100%. Yeah.
So a strong mind, definitely. But I think the way the players nowadays as well, with the speed of the game, and, you know, there's the truth
physicality has changed a lot.
So much. Everyone's
the players
moving
are a lot
quicker,
bigger.
yeah, stronger, faster, all of that. So, you know, you can notice now players when they're playing injured. You know, when you see a half, he might be down on confidence, mate. His ankle might be swollen.
Yeah.
His toe. You know, his shoulder. That's why he's not defending as well. Like, because no one wants to know anyone's injured, because that's gamesmanship. We're going straight at him.
Yeah.
You know, so the mind thing, I do agree with to an extent, but it's also the bodies will do whatever the mind says. But if it's saying, we can only go at 70% this week, that's a tell sign.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
100%. And I think it's also different for every individual how you work on their mind.
Yeah.
I think it's different for every individual as well.
Well, everyone's affected differently by, you know, off-field things where people may be in a breakdown of a relationship, a family member passing away, going through their own highs and lows of rugby league. You know, like, there's so many conflicts.
So many variables.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the time it's got nothing to do with people being naughty off field. It's got other things involved.
And not only that, like, how much can you coach? Like, you could be overcoached too.
100%.
Like, if you got to go, these guys are looking after you now, these guys are looking after you. It's like, where does it stop? Where does it start? Where does it end?
I think the best places in coaches is the ability to read the room.
Yeah.
Obviously, train hard and train with intent, but being able to read your players and listening to your players, I don't think maybe a lot of coaches do that enough. You know, the players want to play well. They get paid to play, you know, but they're also battering rams for 10 months in the season, and people go, that's what they get paid to do. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But if you want them revving at 10 and
Yeah.
playing those 8, 9, 10s at a game.
So they're
You've got to
expecting
listen to 'em.
Rev at 10, but we're going to send you out there at 60%.
Sometimes they do.
But the 10's got to be your best 10 of when you've got nothing wrong with you.
Exactly right. And you try telling to play that.
And look, and to be honest, you might be able to do it for a week, but then you're battered more. So then you're expected to do it the week after.
100%. And you get needled up.
And you played at 10 with that, but now you're battered more.
Yeah. Plus you're lifting weights during the week.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a whole
so
lot of
many.
variables, man. They're
Yeah.
rugby league's very
get it.
demanding. It's very
Yeah.
demanding. The two things you were speaking about then, two little headings, right? I want to give Nicho Hynes a rap because Trindle went off with a head knock.
Yeah.
He actually knocked himself out trying to stop a try. Did you see it?
I've seen that.
And he slid. It was pretty funny. Anyway, he didn't end up coming back on, I don't think, or he come back
No,
on
he did.
15 or 20 minutes
In the
late, whatever
stadium,
the regulated time is. I thought Nicho Hynes played with a lot of confidence.
Mm.
I thought he looked like he had gone up a gear and has been building into that 20-minute period or 15, 20-minute period where he got to control the team.
You're going to think this is funny, but Manly play people into form.
Yes.
I'm just telling you as a Manly fan,
Yep.
you know, it was good to see. Nicho did
Yep.
do well
I
against
thought he
Manly.
did.
He did. He
Yep.
did. But I also believe that they played him in the form.
Yep.
And sometimes you need a team like a team
Yeah.
where you go, fuck it, I'm back.
Yeah.
And we've seen that he's had this in him before.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that could be the catalyst for him having the consistency that, you know, he was bought
For
by.
there to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
And he was a Daily M winner, 2, 3, 4
Years ago, yeah.
seasons ago. And I thought watching it, there's a lot of weight on Cherry Evans at the moment. I just, because
Yeah.
a couple of his efforts were uncharacteristic. There was a couple passes. He doesn't throw bad passes. Like realistically, he's a fucking very good player. But when you see these top players and you know that's something off field, in his situation, a high profile contract to go to another team,
The last 5 weeks,
plus the stuff in the club, maybe that's unsettled him.
yeah, the last 5 weeks, you could see the results at Manly.
Yep.
They haven't been good.
Yep.
And that was exactly when he made the announcement.
Yep.
You know, to be honest, mate, how do we know the Roosters aren't going to do a backflip? Like, if
don't.
Politis and that are watching these games in the last 5 weeks, what do you think they're thinking? Like, what would they be thinking, like, the last 5 weeks with DCE?
I think.
And do you think he's a certainty to play State of Origin with Munster back and the half-back at
Dearden.
Dearden?
He's a fucking good player, Dearden. I think from what's happened with Ben Hunt, Dearden will go to 14 and they'll keep Munster and Cherry Evans.
Yeah.
I think those two are they're their best halves combination, and Dearden's he can play 14.
Yeah.
So that can help them. I just worry that I don't think the Roosters will backflip, but I worry that they'll lose in that scenario. One of these people, or one of these players that are already there busting their ass for.
Yeah.
Because when I look at the Roosters and you hear the stories, they want to keep what they have. You know, they believe in that, and that's what Robertson's done with their forward pack this year. It's unbelievable what those players are doing.
Yeah.
So I think they'll try to do what they can to keep what they've got there already. They'll just have, and if these players do stay there, they'll have to bide their time. Maybe they want to leave and go play first grade because they're actually first graders. They're actually playing really
100%.
well.
100%.
So unless they do a deal where someone goes somewhere for a year and then they want to bring them back the year after, I don't know how they'll do that. But funnier things have happened in rugby league before.
Yeah, look, it's amazing with all the experience Cherry has at 36, going on at 37. The noise seems very hard for him to block out.
Yeah. Well, it just looks like it weighed on him a little bit.
The last 5 weeks, if you look at the effort level,
Yeah, it's
because you're the captain, right?
Yeah.
You're behind the try line.
Yep.
You want to see maybe something from your captain, barking orders, saying, "Hey guys, this isn't good enough. This is not the standard we're at.
Yeah.
I'm not probably playing the best, but I need your help."
Yeah. maybe those conversations happen in house, but it just hasn't been clicking for him because there was a couple of them that looked a little bit disjointed as well.
They did.
Could be a
The whole
thing.
team looked disjointed. There was players that play well week to week that probably didn't play their best either.
Yep. I agree with you. And then the other thing, Hasler and Fafita. I reckon what Des Hasler's done's good for the Titans. Fafita, they're talking about him being already shopped around, saying he's willing to take a pay cut.
Yep.
If I was David Fafita and if I was his management, I'd be ringing the Melbourne Storm and saying, how much can you give us to get him down there for 2-3 seasons? Because looking at him, what he needs is a Melbourne Storm pre-season and those players and that system around him, because they'll challenge him. They'll make him so fucking uncomfortable that he has to reach his potential.
Yeah.
That's what if I want to, like, as a rugby league fan and a David Fafita fan, if he wants to give a little bit of a fuck you to everyone, I'd be ringing the Melbourne Storm. I don't know how it'll work out. I don't know what sort of money, but if he wants to save his career and actually throw some fuel onto his potential fire, I'd be ringing the Melbourne Storm.
So what do we know about David Fafita? Unbelievable talent.
Freak.
Just probably not in the right environment.
Yep.
Needs to get out of that environment and challenge himself. The question is, does he want to challenge himself? Does he have that belief? Has he convinced his manager? Is his manager calling the shots, or is he calling the shots? You know, these are the questions that I look at. I go, who's calling the shots? We know that he's got the talent.
Yep.
We just know that he does disappear as well. And he's got to get out of that environment in Queensland. And you're right. I think the Roosters would have been a terrible move. I think it would have just done exactly what it's done to Brandon Smith and all the other guys that have come to the Roosters.
Yep.
I do believe you. I agree with you 100%. If he goes to Melbourne, goes for a pay cut, and really wants to work, you know, we'll see something special out of this guy.
Well, the reason I say that, I look at his whole career, right? Coming to the Broncos, prodigy. He is. He's a prodigy. Got, 30 games under his belt and got gifted. Not that he say that he didn't earn the right, but he got gifted a large contract.
Yep.
Right? And a lot comes with that.
Yep.
And at times he delivered on the pay packet if we're going off money. And other times he hasn't, you know, been up to the 1.2 or 1.3, whatever he's on standard, you know. But then you see one game he'll have 50 tackle breaks in the first half, and you're like, fucking, who is this guy? And then the week after, he's coming off the bench. Yeah. And it's not like Des Hasler's not a good coach. He's won comps.
Yep.
He's got the best out of players at Manly. He had a great crop there, but he has something at the Titans, but it just looks like Fafita's either not wanting to buy in or he's not, you know, to an extent. They said he went and approached Hazard and said he wants to play left back row, and he goes, well, you can go play Q Cup. Yeah. You know? Then if I'm David Fafita, I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking make you pick me in left back row. You know, that's what Hasler wants. That's what those sorts of coaches want. They want you to make you pick them.
Look, the other day, I've done that in the business.
Yeah.
I've done a message, and, you know, there's other two individuals that have been with us for a while. They went away, not telling me, putting in the work. And I asked them today, I said, Daria wants to know, was it that conversation? Because I believe it was. And then they go, yeah, it was. They go, we're fired up.
Yeah.
And you know, Des Hasler, I'm sure that was what he wanted.
Yeah. And you know what Des Hasler got? He got a response. He didn't kick. So that's what he did. Rightio, if you don't want to do that, I'm going to stick with what I've got and put all my energy into that until you want to come back over and be a part of what we're doing. Yeah. You know, maybe David Fafita having his surgery over the next 4 weeks, he can probably sit in it a little bit and go, you know what? Maybe I should fucking come back and tear the comp up.
Now, this podcast, Shootout Titan Fitness, I created this to make my life so easy. But what I done, I said, you know what, let's help other people. Let's get other people
on this journey where the lights just come on, the camera crew are here, the producers are here. You don't have to do nothing. I wanted to create this for myself. But you know what we've done? We created this studio for others. Why don't you hear exactly what the others have to say about this studio by coming and getting a free trial? Hit the link in the bio. Come and see these guys. They're absolutely amazing. You have to absolutely do nothing and you get the best podcast in the world. Hit the link in the bio and let's go.
Because he has that potential. He actually can do that. We've watched him do it.
Yeah.
And he's only 25. They were like talking
25.
about he's only 25. He's played like 150 games. I think, you know, how many origins? Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, like he's a rep player through and through.
Do you think there was a sign last year when Billy Slater didn't pick Fafita? There was signs like he's not putting in the effort. He's not doing, you know. I was listening to Chimes with Laurie Daly. And he said, you know, I was watching the game all the games last year. I love the game. But I was watching it differently.
Yeah.
This year, as a New South Wales coach,
Yeah.
I'm watching these other efforts that you don't normally watch. You know, off the ball, you know, chasing, getting up off the deck, how quick, you get back, how quickly, you get in the marker.
Yep.
All these other things, all these other little efforts, right?
Yep.
Obviously, last year, there was stuff that Billy Slater didn't see in the efforts to keep him out.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an uproar.
Yeah.
So how could you not pick Fafita?
Yeah.
They lost a series. They started to create stories around that.
Yep.
You know, there was probably signs there. There was probably signs there as well when the Roosters decided, when he decided not to go to the Roosters. Because he wanted to stay comfortable now at the Gold Coast. Gold Coast was comfortable.
I also heard something. I heard the Roosters gave him the contract. They had agreed. Then his manager took the
Went to Penrith.
information, said this is what he's getting there, can use match, it'll beat it, and the Roosters went bang. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Could be fabricated, but that's
Yeah.
that's another story that's sort of come out around, and then he
To be honest,
had to stay at the Titans.
to be honest, if I'm looking at it now,
Yeah.
in hindsight, like, and did Penrith say no as well?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think they're the asking price. I think the manager may have fucked it up a little bit.
Penrith would have been another good place to go.
Yeah. Well, they're the two.
Penrith would have been another good place to go
Yeah, dude.
because they would train him hard.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that one move there,
In that system, imagine getting short balls off Cleary for fucking 3
man,
years.
that would have been
Please.
great for him, to be honest.
The biggest thing that I feel within this this logjam to get in the top 8, who do you feel, Mets, can hold and will be there at the end of the year in 6, 7 and 8? Out of the Broncos, Sea Eagles, Roosters, and you can't go the Eagles just off because you love them, but if you think they
I
can
don't
make
want to
it...
see him there after what I've been watching.
Right, so we're going from 7 to 15 here, right? Broncos, Sea Eagles, Roosters, Tigers, Rabbits, Dolphins, Dragons, Knights, and Titans. Who do you actually think can hold that 6, 7, 8 position?
I think the Dolphins can do well. Mm-hmm. I think the Dolphins can do well. I think the Rabbits, they're going to get their players back.
Yep.
They got Wayne Bennett there. I think the Rabbits will be in there.
Yep. One spot.
And to be honest, I think the Tigers can come back. I do. I'd say Dolphins, Tigers, South.
I've got...
Actually, wait a second. Sorry.
No?
No. Let me take the toss up between Tigers, Brisbane.
Right. I've gone... when I look at it, I'm going the Broncos, I'm going the Rabbits, and I'm going the Tigers. That's
so we're
what I
almost
think.
the same.
That's what, yeah. And I think the Broncos, depending on what they come out, can actually get higher out of the 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
But that's sort of what we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Looking at that, like if I were to pick, I'd go on the Broncos, the Tigers and the Rabbits, because I think the Tigers, they won't have that many rep players out there, so they'll still have that core group.
Yeah.
And they can win these games,
to be honest,
from Origin.
I don't think they'll pick Luai. I think they'll pick Cleary and Moses. Yeah.
I think they will too. I'm interested to see how those two play together.
Yeah. That's the only thing I'm concerned
I could have
about
my foot in my mouth because I think that you need a bit more of, just the one voice. But, I'm willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
Been wrong many times in my life.
And why haven't you picked Manly? We both didn't pick Manly.
Yeah, again, they could surprise us. But at this moment, right in this time, I don't see them happening.
I can't see that.
No, I don't see them
I don't
happening.
see it either.
The Broncos, right? They still got Reece Walsh to come back. Mam obviously coming back this week. Apparently,
Yeah.
we'll find out this afternoon. Makes an easy choice for Madge as Hunt's out with injury. But I'll tell you, I'm watching Cobbo with a lot of intent because I think he's another one that can swing a season for his whole team. And I felt the engagement on the weekend. And I remember I said 2-3 weeks ago, so I've actually been wrong in what I said because he came out and played that game and I thought, fuck, you know what? When he's on, he could be their number one fullback. But since then, it looks like he looks very disinterested
I
in
think
what's
he's
going
injured.
on.
You know what we're talking about?
Possibly.
I think he's injured.
Yeah.
I think he's injured. I think he's carrying an injury. And I don't think... Like, when you watch Cobbo, he's either up here or he's not, right? So, for me, there's got to be a little niggle there somewhere.
You know what I think too?
What?
I think he's getting pushed a little too hard and he doesn't like it.
Yeah, that as well.
I think players with the personality and the demeanour of Cobbo, you sort of got to not carry him.
He's a Wayne Bennett.
You know
He's
what I mean? Let them sort of be themselves and,
Yeah.
all right, you don't have to do this. Like, let him,
Yeah.
that's how you get him going, is lighten his load. So he's just going off instinct. I think if you try to push and physically make it more demanding for him, he's a bit of a different player, I think, and he looks a little bit maybe mentally fatigued.
Yes.
And also injury can play a major
Yeah.
part in that as well. But if they can get Cobbo going, I think that will swing the Broncos. Then you get Mam.
Yep.
Then you get Walsh, Hunt,
Yep.
Reynolds, Huss, Carrigan.
I think, to be honest, with Mam and Reece Walsh back, I reckon they're going to have a good run.
It's a good combination.
Yeah, I reckon they're going to have a good run. I really do.
They bring each other into the game very well.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking speed and silky hands.
Yeah.
Both
And
of
they'll
them.
both have a lot to prove.
They do.
Because Reece isn't going to make the the Queensland side,
Not the
right?
first game, he's injured.
I don't think it might. I think they'll go with Kalen Ponga.
Yep.
You know, I think
player.
the best thing for the Broncos, I'm not saying Queensland, is that he doesn't get picked. That could be the best thing for him.
Well, you think about it too. It's a good point.
Because Mam's not going to get picked.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
If Ponga and the Queenslanders win the first game, you're not going to change the team.
No way.
And Ponga plays well. Mate, Ponga is playing well too at the Knights. I seen him on the screen after they lost. Mate, he looked dejected. He looked like actually fucking filthy.
Yeah.
Because he's putting in some.
I
effort.
can't see him being around at Newcastle for long.
It'll be interesting, mate. The player market over the next 12 to 18 months is going to be very interesting with some of the names that are on the market.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I think we've pretty much covered everything, unless you've got something else you want to talk about.
Just one thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, go.
The Melbourne game.
Yes.
They're killing it. They miss a few opportunities. Craig Bellamy at 20 or 30 and he's still going off in the box.
Do you reckon he's ever happy in his life? Like I get competitive, and I get his competitive nature.
I liked watching it.
Yeah,
From a
mate,
spectator's perspective.
It's hilarious. If you're up by 40 and still blowing up,
You're just going off.
yeah. But like I watched that, mate. They actually dissected the Tigers' defensive line.
I didn't
They
know.
actually dissected
Yeah.
it to perfection.
Yeah.
You know, they ran as hard as anyone, but the way where they laid lines, how they moved the ball, the momentum they created, it just created holes within the back rowers in the middle of the field to a T. It just dissected that middle
And
third
there's
of the
been
field.
a few games that they've lost, so I could imagine like how he was feeling.
Yeah.
Like, mate, I don't want you to miss any more opportunities.
Yeah.
Should have beaten the Raiders.
Yep.
There was another game in the season that they lost by just a few points.
Yep.
They should have won that game as well. They should have been 2 more games up, which would have had them on 18 points, I believe.
Yep.
So he's probably pissed off with
Some
the
missed
lapses
opportunities.
that they've had this year, and he didn't want any lapses in that game at all.
It does help bringing Gigantor back into the team
Oh,
too.
it
Nelson,
was-
he's a mate on his day. He's in the top tier.
Yeah.
When he's playing and he's on, he's actually unstoppable.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is, Harry Grant didn't even play on the weekend. He didn't even play.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So how good is that those forwards laid a platform
Yeah.
for the 9 that did play? and they
Yeah.
were able to score 64 points. It obviously helps having Munster and Hughes and Pappenhausen firing as well, but
Yeah.
that space isn't created unless the big boys are fucking
Yeah.
dominating that middle third. It's
100%.
good footy. It's good footy.
Well, mate, that was a great wrap-up. That was
good.
a great wrap-up. I think it was better than most of the wrap-ups I've heard out there.
Yeah. We did well.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good wrap-ups.
Once we get going.
Yeah.
Do you want to finish off with one more thing then, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
This weekend's games, right?
Yeah. You rattle them off.
Right, we got the Knights in 14th playing the 17th Eels. Who you got?
Eels.
I've gone the Eels too because my man Lomax is back.
Yeah.
He's going to jump over
Yeah, I
someone.
love Lomax.
Yes. The
Big supporter.
Bulldogs first versus the Roosters in 9th. I'm going to go, right? I'm
You're
going to
gonna
go
go
an
with them.
ambush, right? And the only reason I say this, I reckon the Roosters will win. The Bulldogs only played one half of footy on the weekend,
Yeah.
right? They played
One half.
and
Yeah.
it was a fucking very good half. I think the Roosters are playing so well over larger periods of the game. If they can get out to a lead, they can hold it.
Yeah. Is that a Friday night game?
I think so. I think so. I think the Roosters can knock the Bulldogs off.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go the Bulldogs.
Yep. There's potential for them to win too. 12th Dolphins versus the 2nd Warriors. It's fucking hard, eh?
I'm going to go, I think the Warriors are due for a loss. I'm going to go Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going the Dolphins too. 6 Cowboys versus your team, the Eagles in 8th.
Oh, Cowboys easy.
You got them? You got the Cows? You've gone against the
Yeah,
Eagles.
fuck.
We've got the Sharks in 5th versus the Storm in 3rd.
Storm.
It's hard to go past the Storm,
Storm,
isn't
yeah.
it? Fuck,
Storm.
it's hard to go past the Storm. But if there's one team that rattles the Storm,
It's the Sharks.
it's the Sharks.
Yeah.
Broncos v Dragons.
Phew. I'm going to go Broncos.
I feel... No, the Broncos.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me
Yeah,
to say.
so, yeah.
That's hard for me
Yeah,
to say.
yeah.
But if I take my emotion out of it,
Yeah.
I think the Broncos
Yeah.
will come out and win.
Hmm.
4th Raiders versus 15th Titans. This is another one that could go the other way.
It could go the other way. I'm going to go Raiders.
Yeah. I'm going to go Smokies again because I'm on a
Titans.
smoky week. I'm going the
Titans,
Titans.
they're good.
I feel the Titans can get up. Not by much, but I feel they
Yeah.
can. The Tigers versus the Rabbits.
Phew. Man, I'm going to go the Rabbits.
You got to.
You're going to go the Rabbits.
You got to with
Yeah.
old mate.
Yeah,
He
you gotta go
fucking
Rabbits.
if he turns up and does what he did last week,
Yeah, Rabbits for
that
sure.
they could pull
Yeah.
away a little bit. Are they getting any players back, the Rabbits? Or do you
I
reckon
think the
Wayne?
halfback's not far off.
Yeah. Do you
I
reckon?
think-
Do you reckon Wayne sends Dodds back to the Super League by the end of the year?
100%.
It looks like
Yeah,
it. Eh?
he's-
His actions
he's
and
gone.
behaviours
Yeah, he's
towards Dodds, it
Yeah,
shows that,
he's
doesn't
gone.
it?
He's gone.
Poor bugger. And
Yeah.
then the Panthers obviously have the bye.
Yeah.
Well, that's us.
Well, let's see.
Wait and see.
Let's see.
See how right we are.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Over and out.